Born Roger Keith Barrett on January 6, 1946 in Cambridge, England, Syd Barrett exhibited a natural talent for music and art from an early age. In 1965, he joined forces with Roger Waters, Richard Wright and Nick Mason to form what would become Pink Floyd. Barrett's unique vision and creativity were instrumental in shaping the band's early sound. Barrett's influence on Pink Floyd was profound. He penned the majority of the tracks on their debut album The Piper at the Gates of Dawn from 1967, which is considered a cornerstone of the psychedelic rock genre. Songs like See Emily Play and Arnold Layne displayed Barrett's whimsical and surreal lyrical style, as well as his pioneering use of feedback and distortion. His guitar work was equally innovative, employing techniques that would influence generations of musicians. Now, of course, we know that Barrett would eventually be replaced by David Gilmour, but what you might not know is that Barrett and Gilmour had a history together long before Pink Floyd. Barrett and Gilmour became close at college. They would practice guitar together at lunchtimes. Around 1965, Gilmour and Barrett met up in Saint-Tropez in France. They spent a lot of time together there. They were even arrested for busking. After this, of course, Syd would go on to form Pink Floyd. In 1967, Gilmour returned to London from France for a brief trip. He decided to drop in on his old mate Syd and Roger Waters to see them recording the track See Emily Play. Unfortunately and sadly, Syd's mental health was severely declining at that point. So much so that he didn't recognize David Gilmour, despite having spent so much time together in France. Syd Barrett was one of Gilmour's early influences, and perhaps the most profound. Syd was wildly talented, albeit sadly misguided. The two had been jamming since 1965 in England and France. Barrett's style would undoubtedly become early guidelines for Gilmour, mastering the vibrato and the manipulation of the strings. Despite the success of Pink Floyd, the pressures of fame and the demands of constant touring began to take a toll on Barrett. By the end of 1967, his behavior had become increasingly erratic. Friends and bandmates noticed dramatic changes in his behavior. Barrett would often appear disoriented and unresponsive, a far cry from the energetic and charismatic performer he once was. A significant factor in Barrett's decline was his heavy use of LSD. Initially, though, the drug fueled his creativity. In fact, the use of the drugs would produce these incredible lyrics that we know and love from Syd Barrett today. And this LSD usage would set the direction for Pink Floyd, embracing original sounds, experimenting with music, taking them to the forefront of the psychedelic rock movement. It soon became apparent, however, that Syd's use of LSD was just exacerbating underlying mental health issues. It led to episodes of profound paranoia and hallucinations, contributing to his unpredictable behavior. In 1967, the band were forced to cancel their appearance at the National Jazz and Blues Festival due to Syd's nervous exhaustion, as they phrased it. In the winter of that year, the band embarked on a US tour. This had to be cut short as Barrett's public presence was becoming concerning. He stood on stage detuning his guitar at a gig in San Francisco. On TV shows, Dick Clark's American Bandstand and The Pat Boone Show, Barrett would stare intensely at the hosts. From here, Barrett's condition only worsened. He was also under immense pressure to write new songs that would live up to his previous successes. He wrote the songs Scream Thy Last Scream and Vegetable Man to be follow-ups to See Emily Play. However, EMI voted against these as they were just too dark to release. Instead, Apples and Oranges would become the next single, which unfortunately flopped. On a UK tour, Barrett would refuse to leave the tour bus at gigs and would just wander off before stage time. The band tried various interventions, including bringing on David Gilmour to support Barrett on stage, and even toyed with the idea of keeping Barrett on as a sort of behind-the-scenes songwriter. But it soon became clear that Barrett would not be able to work with the band in any capacity. In April 1968, Pink Floyd made the difficult decision to replace Barrett with David Gilmour permanently. This decision was not taken lightly. Barrett was not only a founding member, but also a close friend to the other band members. Barrett's departure marked a turning point for Pink Floyd. While the band would go on to achieve even greater success with albums like The Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, the shadow of Barrett's absence loomed large. The band's music, particularly the album Wish You Were Here, directly inspired by him, reflects a deep sense of loss and longing for their troubled friend. Songs like Shine On You Crazy Diamond are poignant tributes to Barrett, capturing both his brilliance and his tragic descent. After leaving Pink Floyd, Barrett retreated from the public eye and moved back to Cambridge. He made several attempts to restart his music career, releasing 2 solo albums in 1970. The Madcap Laughs and Barrett. And Syd had help with these 2 albums from his former bandmates. David Gilmour and Roger Waters lent their services to Syd in creating the Madcap Laughs. The pair produced the majority of the tracks. Gilmour also played bass and guitar on some of the tracks, and even the drums on the song Octopus. A man of many talents. Gilmour and Wright would then help Syd in creating Barrett, his second album. Looking back at this, Richard Wright said that they were inclined to help Syd just to get him into a studio and sing, in an effort to combat his mental health issues. And from this you can see that Pink Floyd hadn't just completely closed the door on Syd. They were very much still invested in him as a friend and truly wanted him to get better. Both albums showcased his talent, creativity, and brightness, but also reflected his fragile mental state. Barrett's solo work, while critically acclaimed, did not achieve commercial success. The albums are marked by their raw and unpolished sound, providing a stark contrast to the meticulously produced records of Pink Floyd. Tracks like Octopus and Terrapin offer glimpses of Barrett's genius, but also underscore the profound changes he had undergone. As his music career faltered, his mental health continued to decline. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and his erratic behavior became more pronounced. Barrett's family provided loads of support, and he lived a reclusive life, dedicating it to painting and gardening. He would see the band again while they were recording Wish You Were Here at EMI Recording Studios. At this stage in his life, Barrett was totally unrecognizable. He had put on significant weight and was bald. This stark difference in appearance was actually enough to make Roger Waters break down in tears. I've actually made a whole video about this story. It's incredibly fascinating, but also very, very sad. I'll link it up here in the corner for you to watch that, and I'll link it at the end of the video as well. Syd Barrett passed away on July 7th, 2006 from pancreatic cancer at the age of 60. Despite his relatively brief career, his impact on music is undeniable. Barrett's innovative approach to songwriting and guitar playing laid the groundwork for the psychedelic rock movement and influenced countless artists across genres. His work with Pink Floyd remains a touchstone for experimental and progressive rock, and his solo albums continue to be revered by fans and musicians alike. It's interesting to think how different Pink Floyd could be if Barrett hadn't left the band, or if Gilmour never joined, because arguably they reached greater heights without Syd Barrett. But would they have reached even greater heights with him still on board? That will forever be a huge what if about Pink Floyd. Now click over here to watch the story about the final time Syd Barrett saw the band and why Roger Waters broke down in tears because of it.